Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Joining me on the Newsmaker line right now is a guy who has not graced our show since the WrestleMania week of 2004. It's been almost 8 years since you joined us. One of my favorite performers of all time from the original, the real ECW, the one and only, the franchise, Shane Douglas. Shane, are you with us?
James, how you doing, man?
Doing great. Shane, it's great to have you on again, and I told you off air, and I'll tell you on air, I apologize that last time we were on for so long.
No, I hadn't realized it had been 8 years already. I mean, time sure flies by, I guess.
It sure does. It sure does. And, you know, you're doing a big ECW reunion. Last time we talked to you, you hadn't even started the first one, and now you're doing another one. How's everything going getting ready for the big ECW reunion in April?
Everything's going really, really well. I mean, I had thought that we were going to have a lot more uphill battle because of, when we did the last one, we hadn't had the history of WWE having done a god-awful version of of ECW and Dixie Carter's fiasco and Francine's fiasco of a show last year. So there's been a lot of weakening in the brand, at least, from those three perspectives. So we were expecting a lot bigger uphill battle, and what we're finding is the same type of enthusiasm in the fans like we saw in 2005 for Hardcore Homecoming. I think the reason for that, James, is several things. The condition of the business today, WWE and TNA make absolute no use of the phenomenal young talent they have. The end product is god-awful. And I think the other part of it is that in retrospect of how the fans, the original ECW fans, I think really took it as a blatant disrespect what McMahon did with his ECW version, and
absolutely,
and also what Dixie did. So I think all those are coming into play here.
I would agree, and I got to tell you, when WWE did it, I don't think there was I kind of look at like Woodstock. You know how everybody that was alive in that time says that they were at Woodstock? Well, everybody that was alive, everybody who was alive at the time says that they watched the original ECW, and you could tell the ones that really did and the ones who didn't, because the ones who really did were just completely disgusted by what WWE and to an extent what TNA did with their reunion shows.
Yeah, I agree with that, and you're right. It's everybody. Not only was everybody did everybody say they'd watched it, but everybody was also there the night the belt was thrown down at the NWA tournament, and everybody was there for Hardcore Homecoming. And considering the building held just a little over 1,000 people, I don't think that it was possible. But hey, it's great because to me it just shows the level of enthusiasm and the fans have for it, and the respect they have for the legacy that we built there.
Absolutely, and I got to be honest, getting boned up for the interview today, I was watching some of the old 1994 ECW stuff with you and Terry Funk, and that stuff was so special, and that's even before you guys really made the huge splash.
Right.
Why do you think people remember ECW as special today as it was back then?
Well, it was so different, in the time frame that it was in. If you go back into 93, 94 when we launched and we're building ECW, the original ECW, it was so diametrically opposite to everything else that was being offered. The business then was, predicated on cartoon characters and silly storylines and unbelievable characters, dead man coming out of a grave, the world's smartest man, 7 PhD. That kind of garbage that just, 20, 30, 40-something men were not going to watch. It might have been fine for a 12 or 13-year-old kid. It wasn't for guys our age. And when ECW came along originally, we were so different, so much more believable, so much more interesting than everything else that was being given. The analogy I always use, James, is if it's a Friday night and WWE's coming to town tonight or TNA, we got a choice. We can go to the show. We can go out to a bar and have a couple brews. I might go to the dance club and watch beautiful women dance. We'll find about 500 other things to do before we go to the wrestling show. But if ECW was coming to town, we'll be there. We'll put the other things on the back burner and wait till Saturday for those, and we'll go to the ECW show.
Absolutely. And, like I said, I wasn't a fan of the original ECW, and that's why I feel comfortable asking you the next question. To this day, as a Met fan, I can't watch the footage of when they tore down Shea Stadium. What does it feel to you that the building that the franchise built is basically no longer going to be used for wrestling purposes?
I always say I'll believe it when I finally see it. First of all, we're hearing through back channels that the deal may not be a finalized deal. At least that's as of like 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, we heard that it may not be a finalized deal yet. We're going on the assumption that it is, though. And that's why we didn't want to take the risk of trying to book it and then get told last minute to find another venue. We're hoping, I hope, that whoever it is that's taking over the building and that's made that decision, which I think is a short-sighted decision, but I hope that they'll change that decision after they get in the building and decide that it's probably smarter to have the building filled up as many days as they can get it filled up as opposed to shutting off any one genre of it. But for me, this will sound crazy to some people, but for me, everybody says the Madison Square Garden is the mecca of wrestling here in the United States, and I understand the reasoning for that. In the world's largest city, the United States' largest city, and so many great cards have been held there. But I think from 1993 forward, at least in my mindset, the center of wrestling revolved around that little tiny bingo hall in Philadelphia because it had saved the wrestling industry, I believe. It had changed the wrestling industry, revolutionized it. And we did all that without a Panda Energy or a Ted Turner or, CNN or WCW or whatever behind us. We did it the old-fashioned way. We did it with the grassroots. The fans bought our product, believed in it, and supported it. We didn't have that big money backer. So for me, that building is the most special building as far as wrestling goes in my mind.
Absolutely. And, it hasn't had a real home since ECW closed, and it's sad to see go, and hopefully it won't, because it's still been one of the meccas for independent wrestling, even if it hasn't had the same feel as it did once upon a time.
Right, exactly. And then, each one of those companies has been, like CZW, for instance, the fact that they've been running there just about as long, if not longer than ECW did, I think says something. I don't know the exact numbers they do, and if they run every month, those types of things I don't know, but I know we've been talking about CZW for quite some time now, and I think it's a great thing for, everybody says, well, this group stinks, or that group stinks, or that other group down there stinks. I'll be honest with you. I think that, I want to see WWE do well. I want to see Dixie Carter get her head out of her rear end and start to do well, because when the wrestling business does well, when the fans benefit by getting a great product, and it seems to me that when everybody's doing well, it's like the inverse relationship. When you think with everybody, when everybody was doing such great business 10 years ago, that there should have been a weakening in the business because hard to write that many storylines for that many talents and so forth. But the opposite of that was true. When those three companies were running, WWE was putting on a pretty darn good show. WCW was for the very short span of time, but finally starting to get it right, I thought. And ECW was doing some damn cutting edge stuff. So I want to see the CZWs, the Ring of Honor, the Dragon's Gates, the Joe Blow's Wrestling Federation. I want to see them all blow the roof off.
Right. And, it took ECW to create that spark. The Attitude Era was just bringing ECW style to WWE's production values.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And I remember Tommy Dreamer mentioning that at one time when he was a kid. He said, what are we going to do if they start to copy us? And I didn't think that they could copy us product for product, only because we had one big asset that those guys didn't have. We were only running on the weekends, so we had 5 days to recuperate each week, whereas those guys back then were running a 6-7 day a week slog. And I'll be quite honest with you, even then in the best shape of my life, I couldn't have done that style 7 days a week in perpetuity.
All right. My next question for you actually is, when you did Hardcore Homecoming, you did a couple other shows that followed it after the original success of the first one. Extreme Reunion's coming up, and are you guys going to do just one, or just kind of feel it out and see how people react to it?
Well, right now we're putting all the energy into the first one, obviously, but our mindset is to relaunch the brand. We want to get this thing back up and running. For the reason I just said a minute ago, I think it would benefit the industry, McMahon and Carter as much as anybody else, but most importantly, I believe that we can bring that style back, the intelligent storylines, the cutting-edge characters, and I want to repeat the same thing that ECW did originally. Remember in '93, very few people had ever seen Sabu. Very fewer had seen Taz and Tommy Dreamer or even knew who Joey Styles was.
Exactly.
Shane Douglas was considered just a white meat, middle of the card babyface. Terry Funk was considered over the hill. Nobody had ever seen Psychosis, Rey Mysterio Jr., go down the list. And ECW took all of us and exposed us to a nationwide audience and made how many superstars, new superstars. We want to do the same thing when we relaunched this brand. I've seen in the last few years, run on the independent scene out there, a wrestler or two in this company, a wrestler or two over here, one there. And there really are a handful of fantastic young talents out there that I think have what it takes. They have the necessary tools to become the next Sabu or the next Shane Douglas, Taz, Tommy Dreamer, Sandman, Raven. And I want to be the one that gets to bring them to the nationwide audience first.
So this isn't just a reunion of the guys that were around back then. You're also going to start incorporating some young guys. Absolutely.
A year from now, if we do another interview, James, hopefully we'll be talking about two distinct rosters: the classic Misfits and the new age Misfits.
There you go. Well, I'm not going to keep you for too long tonight, but you made a couple comments that I'd like to advance on, and I was kind of taken by surprise that you really disliked the TNA hardcore justice show. Compared to what WWE had done, and maybe that's setting the bar real low, and that's why it seemed like just a step. At least it was classily done, but there was a lot missing, and one of those things missing was you. Why weren't you part of it?
Well, let me clarify for a second. Not that I disliked the show because I didn't get a chance to see it. I did watch snippets of it afterwards. I was happy to see the guys back together, and I thought it was a far better pay-per-view than they usually put on. What sickened me, and really, quite frankly, pissed me off, was that Dixie Carter, a woman who grew up in a billionaire household with a silver spoon up her backside and down her throat, paid those guys pennies to work on that show. And I guess just because she knew that some of them needed the money or whatever, which just makes it all the worse. I would ask Dixie Carter if she were on this interview right now and ask her, where's her class that she couldn't have paid those guys a fair wage. This is the same woman who pays a 63-year-old Ric Flair $35,000 per night and a 60-year-old Hulk Hogan $70,000 or $75,000 a night, and then turns around and tells Justin Credible she'll pay him $250. Axel Rotten $250. That's disgusting to me, and that's where my opposition to that show came. Wasn't in the product, but to answer your question as to why I wasn't there, that it was money, plain and simple. In that universe, in the ECW universe, I'm a bigger name than Hulk Hogan. I'm a bigger name than Ric Flair. And that's certainly not me being immodest. It just simply is a fact. In the Extreme universe, the franchise character was and will always be the central character.
You were the glue that held all the aspects of it together. There was this crazy stuff with Sabu. There was the submission with Taz. There was the boobs and the butts of the girls. And then there was the pure wrestler who was Jay Douglas, who could cut one hell of a promo.
Right, and I don't know if it was the glue that held it together, but Paul wanted it by design to be the calm in the middle of the storm. At the base of it, with all this homicidal, suicidal stuff going on around, tables, chairs, barbed wire, and blood and whatnot, kendo sticks and everything else, there was a wrestler who was at the base of it, was the champion, sort of the anchor. And so I felt very strongly when they contacted me that, what they offered me was laughable. It wasn't even worth my time to consider. And I did make a counteroffer to them that I would wrestle the show for free if they would make a contribution to Wounded Warriors.
Whoa.
But my condition of it was not only do they make the contribution to Wounded Warriors, but that they give me Dick Flair in the ring. And
you wanted to wrestle Flair again.
Yes. And I thought, because the only reason I thought that would be more compelling is, A, most people that do pay-per-views do so with the intention of trying to get as best a buy rate as they could. And I guess that's not something that's important to TNA. So I didn't think that me versus Al Snow, as much as I love and respect Al Snow and love working with him, Raven, Tommy Dreamer, Axel, Balls, Sandman, any of those guys, I didn't think that there would be as much interest in those matches, respectively, as there would be for the first and only time Shane Douglas in an ECW ring with Dick Flair, the one angle that they were promised and never got. And, at WCW is...
I was going to ask you, how did you, when you had the match at Slamboree, was that not something that you're proud of, or?
No, well, I always say this about Flair, and I'll say it ad nauseum until my last breath. Flair is an amazing performer, always has been. I think he's way over the hill now, has way far exceeded his usefulness in the ring. Certainly doesn't take away the fact that he was, as I was coming into the business, the measuring stick of the business. And I was so excited about finally getting a chance to get in the ring and compete with him that it saddened me that as soon as we went there, I sat Ric Flair down the very first day I was there in Jacksonville and looked him in the eye and asked him if he could be professional enough to put our differences to the side and give the best performances that each of us could to help WCW turn the tables back on WWF then. And he looked me right in the eye and said, absolutely. And then found out after that he, no sooner did we have that meeting the very first day, and he started right behind my back going and talking to Bischoff and Russo and all the political people in the office trying to get it done half-assedly. That's why his son David was involved, and Russo came out, if you remember, with a Sting mask on, and it was a whole bunch of dog and pony show, and I thought that he and I in the ring were capable of much, much better than they got because of all that dog and pony show.
Seriously, does it mean anything to you that you actually got to win that match?
No. If you go back and watch that match closely, you'll see that both of us are laying our things. He's laying his chops in, and I'm tagging him back with some pretty good, solid shots of my own. I think when he started throwing his chops, he wanted to prove to me that, he'd heard all the things that I'd said, and he was letting me know it. And as soon as he threw the second or third, I wouldn't call them potatoes, but they were pretty stiff shots with the chops. So I started throwing pretty good, solid ones back, and he never complained. So I always respected him, at least for that. Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned a little earlier that you wanted the donations for the Wounded Warriors thing, and there's something I've always wanted to ask you, completely off topic, but I have to do it. One of the Clash of the Champions, Jesse Ventura, went on a rant about how you had graduated from the Rush Limbaugh Institute. I never knew what the hell he was talking about. Do you have any idea what he was listening
to? When I was a kid in the dressing room, 1990, the first time I went to WWE, he used to come in and just spout off with the most liberal, insane, half-communist diatribes. And I would fire back to him, and, he would, at that time he was saying, all the world's woes were Ronald Reagan's fault, and all, the economy was crap because of Ronald Reagan, and Ronald Reagan was Satan himself, and all. And I would just fire back on the points of it. I found it extraordinarily interesting when Jesse then went back, when he won the governorship, which was amazing to me, not because he certainly, I always knew he had it in him to do it, and he's an extraordinarily intelligent guy. I just never thought that anybody would ever elect in a mainstream state like that, somebody like Jesse the Body Ventura. I'm thrilled to see it happen, but I just never thought it would happen. So, but I was amazed once he did get elected how conservatively he governed. He for all the stuff that he used to throw around in the dressing room, I think now is just more to get my goat up than it was his real belief, because from where he governed much more conservatively than you would have ever believed from his diatribes back then.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I've always wanted to ask you that. And the last question I wanted to always ask you, then we'll get back to talking about the Extreme Reunion. I haven't actually used the name of it yet. Extreme Reunion is the name of the show coming up in April. Deep Purple, Perfect Strangers. Awesome song. Huge fan of the band. Just was curious why you opted to use that as your theme song.
Well, I don't know if you recall or not. That was not my theme song originally. It was Chris Benoit's. And when we did the Triple Threat, my original song in ECW was "Are You Gonna Go My Way" by Lenny Kravitz.
That's true.
Which was a cool song, but I think in hindsight, Perfect Strangers just seems to fit the franchise character like a glove. And first of all, I bought the album in 1983, I think it was. It came out. I bought it and used to drive the people insane on my hall in the dorm at college because I used to play it over and over and over and over again. I think it's a fantastic album. But the way it became my theme song, my ring entrance song, was Benoit had it initially. And then when we did the Triple Threat, me, Benoit, and Malenko, the original Triple Threat, every time we would go to the ring, we would play that song. And when they left shortly after that, shortly into that stint with the Triple Threat, they went to WCW. That song sort of became mine just by proxy. And it's odd because if you're a fan of the band, you'll know the lyrics to the song are incredibly profound. And if you listen to that and then apply the franchise, the character of the franchise, and you listen to some of the lines in that song, it's really amazing connection to the franchise character, almost like it was written for it to be a ring entrance song. And to me, I still get chills when I hear the song because when that keyboard kicks in at the beginning and then the bass line behind it, it's just got such a groove to it that, and I'm sure a lot of it is having had a lot of fond memories having gone to the ring and worked after that. But like I said, I bought it in '83 and played the hell out of it. I think it's a phenomenal album and song.
Absolutely. I think I was a few years after that. I think I bought that one in '91, but it was the first time that a really cool song that I heard was being used in the wrestling business. But going back to Extreme Reunion coming up, I guess my next question is, you're going to use the Armory there instead of the arena, and do you think that you'll be able to pick off some younger fans as well as the ECW faithful that were there every night that ECW ran in that area?
Oh, I fully expect it. I mean, I've already heard so many people say that, that they're so excited for this show because when we did Hardcore Homecoming in 2005, either they didn't have kids yet or their kids were too young. And now this is going to be the first show that they can come and take their kids to, their sons and daughters or whatever, because, and they talked about this to their kids about wrestling. I hear this story over and over again where they've told their kids, hey, this WWE stuff and TNA, this is awful. You should see what I used to watch. And then they'll show them a few snippets of it or whatever on YouTube or from old discs. And now this is going to be the first opportunity for them to get to come to bring them and witness it live and experience that atmosphere. And if you were in the original ECW arena at any of the shows, I'm sure you'll admit that the atmosphere in those buildings was equal to and on par with anything that had ever transpired in the Garden or the Philadelphia Spectrum or any other place. It had an amazing feel.
Absolutely. There was pride in your brand, and it was just absolutely astronomical.
Right.
So I guess the last question I have for you is when I turn on Raw every week this week, what am I talking about? When I turn on Raw every week, I hear somebody make some kind of a snide remark about the dynamic dudes, and I gotta ask, you seeing Johnny Ace on Raw nowadays, and when they take all these pot shots at you and even, maybe manage to slip in a shot of you from back in that gimmick, what are you thinking, watching it at home?
First, I don't watch it, so I hear about it because within a day or two, I've had about 50 people call me or text me or email me and say, hey, did you see, or, they're doing it again. For me, it's, the Dynamic Dudes was, not the proudest moment of my career, but I'm not ashamed of that gimmick only because that was the first time in my career that I made real money. And, I think that, the name was ridiculous. We had debuted as Johnny and Shane, the next generation or the new generation, at the, Slamboree, I think it was in Nashville, wrestling with the Samoan SWAT team, and with Paul Heyman, oddly enough, managing them. And the next day is when Jim Herd told us about this new name that he had come up with. I think they just so grossly mishandled it. I think that Johnny and I, had we stayed with that original name, and had they allowed us to grow into those characters and grow into that gimmick that it could have gotten over much bigger. The original idea was to do like an updated version of the Rock and Roll Express, right, or, you know, some new version of like that would attract the girls into the buildings. And, you know, for me, when I see Johnny out there, the only question I have is why in the world didn't he talk so long? Because Johnny was not a good talker back then. He's a worse talker now. And to me, I think it's like the heart, the personification of what's wrong with the business today is, you know, a well-placed promo, when it's delivered properly and it has a point, is like, you know, throwing gasoline on a fire. But when the promo has no point, or it's poorly delivered, or it goes on for 20 minutes, it's like watching paint dry, literally.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's what's wrong with especially WWE and TNA, and they need to cut a whole hell of a lot of that kind of garbage out and put a whole hell of a lot more of those young, phenomenal, talented wrestlers they have, and take the blinders off them and take the reins off of them and stop giving them these ridiculous scripts written by Freddie Prinze Jr. and let them go out and be what they are, great athletes. And I think their product will fix itself at that point.
I would agree. And you mentioned Paul Heyman's name. He'll have absolutely no involvement in Extreme Reunion, correct?
Stay tuned.
Very interesting. So it's going to be happening in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the mecca of it all, back, not in the arena, but at the Armory nearby. And it's April 28th, and I'm going to tell you, I'm looking forward to seeing it. Hopefully you guys will have a film crew on hand, because I'd love to see this thing on DVD. And, man, I got to tell you, it's always great to have you on the phone, Shane. I'm one of your biggest fans. I say all the time, and Patrick Kelly, who's on the line with us, by the way, can tell you that I could tell you that we have gotten into arguments on this show where I would insist that the franchise character 1997-1998 was the hottest angle in the entire wrestling business. And you know what? I stand by that today, and I would be saying that whether or not you were on the phone.
Well, you're absolutely correct. I couldn't agree more.
Actually, I made the comment that you were Triple H long before Triple H became who he was.
Well, you know, the funny thing is, when you say that is, years ago, probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago now, I lose track of time, but I was at my old house, the first house that I had bought, and was in the kitchen making something to eat, and we had WWF on. I don't know if it was WWE then or WWF. And I heard Hunter on there, but, you know, I wasn't really listening. I just was in the kitchen. I heard his voice on there. But a few minutes in, I thought, why does that sound so familiar? And then I started listening, like paying close attention, and I went, wait a second, that's why it sounds so familiar, because it was a word-for-word rip-off of one of my old promos. I said, they say imitation is the greatest form of flattery, but yeah, I thought those quick guys said
that your promos were only good because you swore a lot.
Well, I can actually put a sentence together without swearing if I friggin' feel like it, but it's, you know, to me, I look and I say, look, if these guys, there's nothing new that's ever been, you can't do anything new, or very few things. It's very seldom does something new come along in the wrestling business because it's all been done. I think we danced around that more often in ECW than most places before since. If somebody wants to imitate that, I guess it's flattering to some extent. I'm proud of the fact that I never, knowingly or otherwise, took somebody else's promo and just switched a few words around or whatever. The stuff that I came up with was usually off the top of my head, and was pointed specifically to the angle that we were involved in, and putting that angle to another place. Just leaving it where it was. The angles and the promos were meant to build the storyline to the next level, so that the fans would want to be more interested in the story. These are ideas that just seem to be lost. Gotten lost on the wayside in wrestling, and you watch TNA and WWE, and promos have no point. They go on and they just ramble on about something for whatever reason, or they're supposed to get emotionally involved because somebody poured concrete in somebody else's car. It's bizarre to me. It just doesn't make any sense. But I think that's all the more reason why we need to relaunch this brand now.
Well, I'll tell you what, and I'm glad you're calling it a relaunch. And I got to be honest. With all the ECW reunion shows that have happened, I was just my first reaction was, I hope it's not just another, trip of the old guys getting back together again. As much as I love seeing that happen, I do think that, ECW did close 11 years ago, so we need to see something happen where we get that spirit with a new brand, as you would put it. And,
I agree.
I'll tell you what, Shane, I really appreciate it. I'm going to let Patrick Kelly have the last question. Pat, you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry I was late to the phone, James, but yeah.
He was
thanks again
in the background during most of it, by the way.
Yeah, thanks for spending all this time with us. And, James and I, we've had discussions on this show all the time about how the worst thing that ever happened to wrestling was losing both WCW and ECW at around the same time, because obviously that led to WWE becoming complacent, and any, originality in wrestling just seemed to go right out the door. What do you plan to bring to this new brand relaunch that will kind of shake up the wrestling business?
Well, to me, I think the biggest thing is it would be a cliche for me to say, well, we're going to bring back the original feel of ECW. That would be like trying to sit here and recapture lightning in a bottle twice. But to me, what ECW stood for, and I think the reason for its success, was the storylines were intelligent. They were thought-provoking. They might have been tasteless at points, but you never walked out of there saying, "Boy, that was a dumb storyline." Everything that was about, somebody trying to steal another man's son, somebody making fun of a handicapped person or whatever. I mean, those types of things, could have been tasteless, but they were the things that people in the audience would sit there and if it was meant to piss you off, usually it did piss you off. If it was meant to grab you emotionally, like, the stuff they did with Hunter and Sandman, it usually did that. The storylines were very intelligent and thought-provoking. Secondly, the talent we had a phenomenal, way under, I think the crew got way below the respect and the reputation that they should have gotten. To me, it was the most talented dressing room I'd ever worked in. But I think the biggest portion of that, and I think it sort of pulls all these loose ends together, is that Paul Heyman didn't micromanage us. He very seldom ever gave me any direction whatsoever as far as in-ring. In fact, it's very seldom he ever gave me a finish other than thumbs up or thumbs down. It was, he allowed us the parameters of going out there and doing what we felt strongest to do, because we all knew our own angles. But in the character itself, in the franchise character, Paul Heyman only ever gave me one pointer as to what the character was. He said the franchise character is the captain of the football team that steals everybody else's girlfriend and screws them. And so I understood what he meant by that. Pretty scumbag character. But the character really was so much more than all that. He was accomplished. He was a big mouth. He was a scumbag. He had no moral redeeming value whatsoever. And those were things that the character sort of grew into over the first year and a half, 2 years of launching it. As I was fleshing that character out, I made a ton of mistakes, ton of them, but I only ever made them once. If it didn't work in front of the audience, it quickly got discarded from the character and never utilized again. But we were given the option and the parameter to go out there and make those mistakes. Look, when you learn to run as a kid, you fall a bunch of times and skin your knee, and you learn that hurts, and so you don't do it anymore. These kids in the business today are being written such drivel that I'm thankful that I was coming up in the business back when I did and not today. Not that I wouldn't mind being 20 again, but, to be written this kind of garbage. And you'll see the kids at these tapings literally walking around with a script, a move-for-move script or a word-for-word promo. So then the kids are never really putting their brain into becoming that character. They just sort of go out and play off this little script they've been given, right? Like a little second-grade skit in elementary school. And so they're never really personifying the character. They're just going out there and regurgitating, and I think that's a big problem in the business, and I think that's one of the things that we'll definitely be doing, allowing the classic misfits to define new parameters of their characters, and any new kids that we bring in will allow them the same leeways.
Absolutely, and like I've said a million times, your character was, I'll say it again, even though I don't know that you agree, it was really much the glue that kind of brought it all together, and you had a reason to hate it because you had the hot girl on your arm, and you were the guy who could actually win the matches, and it just was the ultimate character that you love to hate. And you know what? I'm more excited after talking to you about this Extreme Reunion show than I was when I first started talking to you tonight. So hopefully the audience listening at home will agree. And for those who want to check it out, where can they find out more information about Extreme Reunion?
Yeah, it's extremereunion.net. And my understanding from one of our technology guys, because I'm not the technology wizard, but he's telling us that he's getting ready to launch a new website, and all that information can be found at extremereunion.net. We'll also be beginning to disseminate the card. We're getting ready to finalize, or at least give the version of the card that we're going to promote. We can make changes up till bell time, obviously, but the matches will begin to be announced on there. And as we announce the matches, we'll also be having video promos from each of the talents going into the show. So extremereunion.net will be where all that information can be found. And also, don't forget the meet and greet that afternoon before the show, where they can come and meet everybody and get their pictures taken and everything else.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'll have to keep in contact and find out how it goes. And again, I can't thank you enough for spending so much time with us again. Kind of did it again to you, spending too much time, but thank you for spending as much time as you have, and you have a great night.
We appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you there.
And welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. We just finished up with the franchise, Shane Douglas. Always love having Shane on the show. And I think that he was pretty fair with his criticism on things. Even though he came out, and as he is prone to do, threw some bombs, he didn't just come out and blindly throw the bombs. He explained, where his problems with the people that he has the problems with started, lie, and are based on. So I think that this was a different kind of thing, because we've already done a long interview with Shane.
2.5 hours.
Already, like an hour and a half long, yeah.
That was longer than that, wasn't it? Wasn't it like 2 hours?
Well, it was 2 recording sessions. He wanted to do 2. So
okay.
we did 2 different recording sessions and finished it up. And it was basically it was a little bit closer to 2 hours, probably, an hour, 40 minutes, something like crazy like that. Realistically, it was too long, but it was still good. And this one kind of just either ties in loose ends from that and also allows him what the reason for the interview was to kind of explain the premise behind the Extreme Reunion. So hopefully you guys will give this thing a shot. And for Nick, who wasn't a part of the interview, the Extreme Reunion, he's talking about more than it being just a reunion of the ECW guys. He wants to, and these are his exact words, relaunch the brand.
Well, that's not going to... Look, all due respect to Shane Douglas, but I've kind of reached the conclusion about him I've reached with Cornette. Everyone that ever fired him is an idiot, according to him, and he never looks in the mirror and says, what did I do? Why didn't I live up to my potential? What did I do personally that screwed up? I'm sorry, it's every interview it's the same with this guy. Dick Flair cost me. Jim Herd cost me. Paul Heyman didn't pay me enough money. Vince McMahon had no idea what was going on. Shawn Michaels made sure I never got a break. Blah, 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 blah. You know what, Shane? You got fired from TNA because you fell asleep backstage. You know what? Any other job in America, your ass be fired too. The bimbo is fucking you, old man. I don't give a rat's ass. And I'm going to relaunch ECW. Good fucking luck, old man. You and all your other broken down old men. I'm so sick of hearing about the reunions of ECW. And I'm so sick of...
Can anybody else guess why I compare Nick to our version of Michael Cole?
I am not Michael Cole. He's a bitter old man.
He just did everything short of calling him a dork.
No, look, I'm not ranting on Shane Douglas. I've just changed my mind. You know what? I got respect for what the guy does in the ring. I'll never deny that he had tons of potential. But you know what? I'm sick of the same old song and dance from this guy. It's everybody else's fault. I never lived up to my potential. Well, guy, the same ingredient every time is you. And look, it's not. I'm not mocking the guy. I'm not trying to be, rude. Look, he makes solid points all the time. But it's like, you know what? Every interview is just, goddamn Dick Flair. He cost me so many opportunities. And it's like, Paul Heyman never paid me enough, and You know, it's like...
Well, I can tell you that...
never paid anybody enough.
Paul Heyman used to write checks for airline tickets on Sonny's credit card.
Well, I mean...
I'm not kidding. He bought airline tickets on Sonny's credit card. The guy really did push his luck at times, but that's all, here or there and all that stuff. Bottom line is, and I'm going to bring it back, I said on the interview, and I'll say again, I believe that the hottest character, I won't say feud, because the feud of the time belonged to Hogan and Sting, but the hottest character in 1997, 1998, if you put all three companies on par with one another, which admittedly they weren't, they were not, but if you put them all on par with one another, the hottest character was the Shane Douglas character. He was red hot, his matches were awesome, his character was red hot, his valet was red hot, everything about this guy was just, it was... Let me put it this way. It was I own two ECW shirts, the ECW logo and a Triple Threat t-shirt. There's a reason for that.
And I'm not saying Shane Douglas wasn't hot, and I'm not saying that the guy wasn't a fantastic worker. And I'm not even saying that the guy isn't making valid points when he talks about the stuff different people have told. I'm just saying, you know what? He's 45 years old, if not a lot older. At some point it's like, the shock appeal wears out, Shane, and look, I'll listen to the interview and maybe I'll change my mind. I mean, hell, I remember when you did the interview with Chris Masters, I went into it thinking, oh, this guy's just going to be an idiot. The guy Hander needs promotion. My immediate thought was, I really misjudged this guy.
Who was that now?
Chris Masters, and that's just one example.
Ah, okay, yeah.
I mean, the
one person who said that Chris was a psychopath.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of that interview. He said, anybody ever just stop to think maybe the guy was fucking nuts?
Yeah. Which, look, please, people don't take this, and if Shane listens to this, please don't take this to mean that, I don't respect everything Shane was. It's the same way I feel about Jim Cornette. I respect a lot of the things that he's done, but I just get sick of the same old coming out of his mouth with just changing some of the names.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. He didn't do that in this interview. He kind of explained everything out. And I could see why you could say that, but you know what? Douglas has had his own battles in his life, personal and political, with things in the business, and you can't deny them. I mean, he bitches about Flair screwing him because Flair screwed him. He bitches about Michael screwing him because Michael screwed him. I mean, it's not saying stuff that wasn't true. I mean, he got a legitimate back injury in the ring with Scott Hall, and when he's injured and he doesn't work an MSG show, Shawn Michaels runs to Vince McMahon's office saying, he doesn't want to work MSG. What's wrong with this guy? I mean, come on, this is what people...
Made Shawn sound like Triple H there.
Yeah, an ambiguously English accent. Yeah, that's what...
All right, well, you know what? Like I said, I'll listen to the interview and maybe I'll change my mind.
All right, well, now that we've pissed off Shane and we'll never get another interview with him.
Well, I'll throw my 2 cents in there. I second what I said in the interview, and I told Shane he was Triple H before Triple H was Triple H. And that's how I feel. Shane Douglas was that good.
I think that it was the package. It was the whole package. And I'm not just talking about ECW Shane Douglas. I'm not just talking about, WCW with Ricky Steamboat Shane Douglas. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about the whole package. When you look at the career, was awesome stuff. But the best stuff, in my opinion, was 1996 through 1990, let's say 99, early 99. With that version of the Triple Threat, the character was just super hot. There was nothing hotter. You got a guy who broke a guy's neck, stole his girl, and instead of being sympathetic about the fact he broke his neck, he took that girl, put her in a skinny bikini, took her in the ocean, and said, paraplegics can swim, so if you want to fight me, come swim to me.
Oh. Yeah, he was... I'll say it again.
The character was just a dickhead, and it worked awesomely.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. I hope that comes through, is that I don't begrudge Shane his talents, and I don't begrudge his abilities in the ring. I mean, I'll say it right now that look, he was the guy that was perpetually one big break away from, if only he could have gotten that big break in one of the other companies, he could have done it. It's just, and look, there would not have been, and people can say, oh, it was Streamer, oh, it was Raven, oh, it was Heyman. ECW would not have been nearly as entertaining as it was if not for Shane Douglas.
In my interview with him, in the interview that Patrick and I did with him, I said that I believe that he was kind of the glue that held it all together. Because if you went one way or the other, let me put it this way, if you didn't have a wrestler like Shane Douglas on it, ECW would essentially have become the no-holds-barred battle of the tough guys.
Yeah. That sounds like a really bad early name for the UFC.
That's what Battle of the Tough Guys. It was scuzzy women who had the perceived notion that they weren't very classy. I'm not saying that about Francine or Beulah or Dawn or any of the other ones that were in ECW, but that's just the perception that they had. They had that. They had the barroom fights, which is what New Jack and all that was. That's essentially what it was. But you had Shane Douglas's character that brought it back to an in-ring style, and that is what was necessary for ECW. And I'd venture to say that's partly why it never really regained its identity after he left in the middle/early 1999. And, arguably they had their best success then with the TNN show, but what happened was people didn't see that special of a product when it got to TNN. It was watered down and blown out, and a lot of that had to do with they didn't have the center for that show. And that's what Steve Corino, I believe, they were building towards him becoming. That nucleus for everything to surround around.
Oh, kind of like what Bobby Roode is now for TNA.
Which is a great way to transition it to the discussion of TNA, which had a pretty major news story this week. And that, of course, it had a couple of major news stories. One is the departure of Vince Russo from the creative team.
I guess now we'll find out how big of a role he had in creative.
Exactly. Here's the thing. I don't necessarily think that this is a good or a bad thing. You've got some people out there that are like, well, finally TNA wised up and got rid of Russo. That guy's the fucking devil. He's the stupidest motherfucker that ever lived. Look, I'm sorry. The guy booked some bad angles. There is no denying that. He was absolutely lost at the end of WCW. I mean, there were some horrible, horrible shows. And he has been very hit and miss in TNA. That said, I've seen a lot worse shows booked, ladies and gentlemen. Please do not act like he never had a good idea, despite what certain people will try to convince you, And here's the thing. I always believe it's a good idea to change up the creative team every couple of years, because and Vince Russo will be the first person to talk about this. There's a bubble that kind of creates in the system where you can't see the forest, you can't see the trees through the forest. And you just kind of think, well, this is what we always do, so let's just keep doing it. So I like the idea of having somebody different, someone who hasn't been working with TNA, come in and hopefully change things up, maybe bring a couple of fresh ideas, fresh perspectives to the table, and maybe say, or maybe Vince would say, well, okay, let's do this. Maybe they say, you guys do that so often. I think instead what you need to do is you need to do this. That said, I don't feel like with Vince Russo gone, all the problems that we see with TNA, and there are problems creatively, are going to go away. Like, I don't think him being gone is like, oh my God, everything's perfect now. There are other changes that need to happen. I don't think a lot of those were Vince Russo related.
Yeah, I would agree with that in some aspects. And again, you have to take into account how much power does Bischoff have, how much influence does Hogan have, how much influence does Jeff Jarrett have, and everybody else that's involved in the creative team. That I was never really keen on just piggybacking the whole. Whenever I had a major problem with
Russo chant.
Yeah, the Fire Russo chant. I was like, well, we don't know if that's Russo. Right, exactly. I mean, it's kind of easy to point the finger at him, but you don't know.
Right. You know, I mean, you even talk about this. Who's Dixie listening to? You know, who's Bob Carter listening to? You know, it's like, you know, how much influence does Fight TV have? You know, do they have these ideas and then they say, well, you know, here's what we kind of like you guys to do, and they're like, well, you know, maybe we should do it if that's what the network wants. You know, I always say this, TNA is one of those companies that a lot of people write so-called inside reports about that I'm willing to bet people that actually know what's going on are laughing their asses off thinking, oh my fucking God, where do these idiots get this? Because you had a certain fat ass in Minnesota that was claiming, I don't know why TNA hasn't acknowledged that Taz isn't on the pay-per-view when they acknowledged it within the first 5 seconds he wasn't on air.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, and then his first comment was, well, oh God. Tell you what, as much as I like Ryan Metzl, there's a certain other fat ass that I absolutely despise and think he isn't, and, God, if his website shuts down, the world's going to be a better place.
Which website does he run now?
I'm not going to give this fat son of a bitch any promotion.
Oh God. Yeah.
It's not Bob Ryder.
No, it's not. But yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, we're on the topic of TNA. Russo's gone. And like I said, we'll see if there are any major creative changes. Now, what I will say, based on Impact this week, I like a lot of the things that they did, especially leading into their build-up for Lockdown. They actually announced the match 2 months in advance. What a crazy idea!
Right, and by far it is by far the best and the only really good option you had, which, you know, is Storm versus Rude. Finally, Storm gets a one-on-one title match with Rude, and the idea is, you know what? It's in a steel cage. Rude can't do his runaway tactics. Hopefully, you know, it's like the idea is on the cage is that, well, this means Bully Ray can't get in there. This means Rude can't grab a beer bottle. You know, this is going to be the match James Storm wants. And you also have the story of, yeah, the Cowboy's coming home and he's hunting for the world title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So they've got 2 months to build that. I agree with you. I think this is the right match to go with, and hopefully it comes off well. I applaud TNA for actually getting one right.
Right. And I think, you know, to me it's been pretty obvious this is what they've been building towards all along. I mean, when you did when you had Storm win the belt, and then, you know, 2 weeks later Rude, you know, screws him out of it, you know, and you have the line that just sticks in my head, which I applaud Mike Tenay for that line. It's just, that's how you treat a brother? Bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'll also say this about Bobby Roode. I said this a couple times this week, and I'm going to keep sticking by this. And he is one of the guys that understands being a heel means you're supposed to get hated. You're not supposed to be tough. You're not supposed to be cool. You're supposed to be the guy that everyone wants to see get his ass kicked.
And I thought, again, going back to Impact this week, I thought that ending with him beating up Sting was really good. Yeah, it's probably going to be him versus Sting at the March pay-per-view.
Yeah, plug your ears here. Spoiler alert. Next week, what they're going to kind of do is they're going to kind of hint that Sting's going to retire or leave TNA because of that beating, and he's going to be like, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick your ass because I'm sick and tired of you. And then they'll go to the March pay-per-view, and it'll be Sting versus Rude. I believe it will be non-title. And you posted in your video blog this week that Rude should go over, and I 150% agree with that.
Yeah, there's a tendency with non-title matches to say, oh, well, the champion doesn't have to win since it's non-title, but I'm like, no, Rude should go over.
Right. You know, look, people can say, oh, well, it needs to be clean. You know, if you want to do what you always do with Rude, which is, you know what, have you know, the referee get bumped, and then he hits Sting with the brass knucks or any other particular weapon, and that's how he beats Sting, that's fine. I just don't want it to be Sting hits the Scorpion Death Drop, Sting gets in the Scorpion Deathlock, and, you know, oh, Rude loses. You know, it's like, because, you know, one thing that isn't done enough is, in any wrestling promotion pretty much, is protecting the champions.
Or protecting heels in general, really.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Jericho. He's already lost the Rumble. And I think that really set back the build up to Punk and Jericho at Mania.
Yeah, and I'm going back to your video blog, so for people that, want to get more from Patrick, he does have a vlog on YouTube. And, you're absolutely right. It's like, they gave it to Sheamus, and what the fuck has Sheamus done?
I haven't seen him, to be honest. I think I saw him the night after the Rumble on Raw, and that was it.
Yeah. Which, I mean, absolutely, we need to protect the heels, we need to protect the champions, and you know what, we need to... I wish they hadn't done I really thought it was a mistake to have Rude and Storm wrestle since, the title change. They did it on the London Impact, but I think that was a tendency of, to say like, oh, well, we are in London, this is such a great crowd for us, let's reward them, let's give them this big match, and then also having them, be in the four-way with each other, it's like, you kind of take away, but it's like, you're taking away, from the big ultimate payoff at the end, which is lockdown.
Right. I mean, it's still better than what happens most of the time. I wouldn't have done those matches either, but even though it's still like, nobody saves anything in this day and age, so that's almost like ideal compared to, what most other people do.
It's baby steps in the right direction where, well, at least they didn't main event, the January pay-per-view against each other one-on-one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see what happens.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we'll follow the road to lockdown, but we've also got the road to WrestleMania coming up. And
right, and but before we go on to WrestleMania, I do just want to real quick, I think, speak on behalf of everyone here and say our best wishes to Jeffy Sorensen, who, unless you've been living under a rock, you probably heard that he was severely injured at the Against All Odds pay-per-view. And the good news is he's apparently out of the hospital and he has regained feeling in both his arms and his legs. So,
yeah, that sounded nasty. I didn't see the pay-per-view on Sunday night, but it sounded nasty. And it is great news to hear that he's out of the hospital. And from what I've read, he's expected to make a full recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will just say this in the off chance that he's listening to this. Take time, let your body heal, kid. Don't rush back because that's a mistake way too many wrestlers that do permanent damage to themselves make. And that's, I gotta get back. It's like, no. Don't follow Kurt Angle's example. Let your body heal up. Be ready to come back. Because, I was watching it, and at first it didn't look that bad. When they showed the replay, you could kind of see, oh shit, that was horrible because his neck just got compressed, and came forward. And I don't even want to really place the blame. It's one of those things where it's like, that's why they call them high-risk moves, which is, people that didn't see it, it was a moonsault done by Zema Ion onto Sorensen, who was on the floor. To me, it kind of looked like, and I don't like blame the guy that got injured, but it's like, to me, it kind of looked like Sorensen wasn't ready. He wasn't even looking up to tell, oh God, where do I have to be to catch him properly? It's like, he was kind of standing there and he wasn't ready, and I think he just got clipped and, he got pretty badly hurt, and hopefully he'll be all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best of luck, kid. And now let's get on, as you said, the road to WrestleMania takes, really its next big step. That's this Sunday. It's the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view.
With the worst Elimination Chamber match ever on paper.
Wait a minute, Patrick. You are telling me the idea of Santino Marella does not absolutely rivet you as a major pay-per-view title challenger?
Oh, dear God, no. Honest to God, I'm sitting there thinking, it's like they're going to take him out of the match, not out of the pay-per-view. My God. Like, Del Rio or Christian is going to make a comeback, jump him, and take his spot in the chamber match like Edge did a couple years ago, because I can't fathom Santino getting a title shot.
But he's got the Cobra.
Yeah, he also chokes on Natalia's farts, and that's kind of his new thing now.
Oh, God. You know what's really sad? Somebody actually thinks that there are people that get paid a lot of money that think that is a good idea. We're going to have this.
You know what? I think it's a Carlito thing all over again. I think Natalia did something to piss somebody off, and now they're punishing her. Because I can't fathom anybody truthfully thinking that's a good idea.
Yeah, it has to be a punishment. It absolutely has to be. Maybe she said something backstage like, look, I don't look like a foot, and I can work. Maybe you should push me or something like that. And like, well, that's not fair to Alicia Fox because she looks great, but she can't work a lick and all that stuff. And it has to be something where she said something that somebody perceived as egotistical, and they're cutting her down to size.
Yeah, which is really unfortunate. Because to be perfectly honest, looking at the WWE Divas division, there's two girls currently active that can really work. Beth and Natalya. And those, it's like, Beth is still getting a push. I mean, unfortunately, but it's like...
And I think Karma's going to get the shot at WrestleMania. I think that's going to be the Mania match, is Karma versus Beth Phoenix.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's just kind of like, I think it's just to me, it's just like the Divas division as a whole is just dead. And it's almost like the only way to kind of fix it is just to kill it off for a while and then bring it back, when you have people that can work. But the problem is, the WWE doesn't see it as a problem right now. They probably think, well, it's fine as it is. I mean, people don't want to see wrestlers. They want to see bikini models.
Yeah, and, Alicia Fox, by the way, when she hurt Beth Phoenix, that didn't shock me at all, because I remember watching her have a match with Gail Kim, and I'm like, she's going to kill somebody one day, because she is dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, she is, God, is just watching her work, you're like, seriously, does she even, like, did anyone tell her how to do anything before she walked out there? Is her experience just watching it on videotape?
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe it's the 21st century. She watched it on YouTube.
Okay, watched it on YouTube. Good point. So it's like, seriously, I mean, it's like, she's the one person I've seen that cannot successfully pull off a drop kick.
Jerry Lawler can even do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, seriously, it's like people always give Eric Watts bullshit for the one botch he had. I mean, that guy never lived down one bad drop kick over, in the early part of his career. At least he actually later he actually did hit decent drop kicks after that. This girl doesn't even come close to making contact on them. It's like, seriously, if you can't do it, drop it from your repertoire of moves.
It's kind of like with Elix Skipper when he used to do that, I believe he called it New School, where he would walk the top rope and do a Hurricane Rana on the guy. But I only saw him hit it twice. And one of them was the cage walk at Turning Point that one year.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, thank God he hit it that time, because that would have been, a death if he didn't. But, yeah, he swear to God, he would slip on the top rope every single time. I was like, dude, you can't hit the move. Stop it.
Yeah, stop. Oh, God. But at least, there's an excuse. It's like, it's hard to walk the top rope. It's hard. No, not a lot of people can do that. That's why tightrope walker is kind of in demand at the circus. But it's like, seriously, most of these girls can't do the single most basic moves in the world. And
Kelly can't hit the ropes.
Right. They can't hit Kelly can't hit the ropes. I mean, Eve is slightly better than some of the girls, but she's still as clumsy as a fucking ox. And I've seen porn actresses work better than her in this angle with Cena and...
Oh, and she's the biggest bitch in the world, by the way.
Yeah.
I think WWE just created their new biggest heel.
Yeah. It's like, the thing was completely unrealistic on Monday, where it's like, she gets kidnapped, and then she gets released, and her first reaction is to make out with somebody.
Well, Nick, you might have heard of makeup sex, but if you've ever heard of kidnap sex...
Well, oh, mama.
All right, well, I'm about to get fired. Maybe. Well, you know what they say, or at least really dumb Mexican UFC fighters say.
Hang on to handcuffs for extra fun.
Yeah. Well, you know what? If they called a rape ban a surprise ban, all the women would like it, because who doesn't like a surprise? Wow. But by the way, that's not my joke. That is from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And really dumb mohawked Mexican MMA fighters.
Okay, is that any good? I've never seen it.
I don't know. I thought it was good, but then the problem is it competes with Impact, and then I'm like, so I'm watching Impact.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's like, it was that stuff on Monday with Cena and Zack Ryder and stuff. It's like, that was hilariously bad. It was entertaining because you're laughing your ass off at how bad it is. The problem is, they didn't want you to laugh at it.
Oh my God, it was pure comedy.
It was like a really bad parody of soap opera acting.
Dude, go watch The Room. Like, I swear to God, go watch The Room. It was almost exactly like that, only it didn't have Tommy Wiseau. I mean, if you want a good laugh at something that's awesomely bad, go check out The Room. Or just go watch this episode of Raw again, whichever.
I mean, it's just like, it was just like, and everyone could kind of see where it was going. You know, it's like Zack Ryder has been beat up like 500 million times since he got, you know, James has often said that he believes the sole reason ECW was revived a couple years ago was to kill off the ECW chants. I'm now convinced the sole reason Zack Ryder got a push was to kill off the We Want Ryder chants. Because look at how they have booked him since he won the U.S. title. He is Cena's little buddy that always gets beat up, and now he's just a bitch that can't score with a slutty girl.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, we all knew where that was going. Like, from the second that she kissed him, it's like, yep, they're going to pan over and Ryder's right there. Of course he is.
Yeah, which I love how all their backstage segments have that when somebody looks off screen, and then they have to do that quick, like, which is almost, you know, they use that for comedies, like comical reveals. And they do that, and Ryder has this ridiculous look on his face. It's just, it's pure magic, pure magic.
And then it's like he didn't do himself any favors in the segment where he went down the ring, he got out of his wheelchair. It's like, you were never my friend, John. You were never my friend. It's like, oh God, this is horrible. Somebody end it now.
And the fans, you know, it's funny. It's like they're making it sound like this whole, like, the fans are turning on Cena thing. Like, they're trying to make it look like it's something new. But dude, it's in 6 years. I mean, it's like
same old. It's the same old. You know, it's like, quite honestly, it's like Cena doesn't need a feud. I mean, it's like, what you need to now concentrate on is doing the final touches to Cena versus Rock. And I mean, I hate to say this, they're blowing that build up. Any potential, the way to do that and have that story actually interesting is concentrate on the legitimate dislike these two have for each other. Instead, what they're doing is they're doing a bunch of videos where, like, The Rock is one of the biggest stars in the world, and so is John Cena. They're going to fight each other because they're superstars. It's like, seriously, this is how you're going to build this up, these boring-ass videos of The Rock and Cena riding around and doing interviews. It's like, yeah, this is really fascinating stuff, guys. Air this like 10 more times, and maybe I'll buy it.
Well, hopefully, once they get past Elimination Chamber and they're finally done with the whole Kane and Cena thing, they'll have Rock on TV more and do that. Yeah, I hope so, but we'll see.
You know, I mean,
because that match is going to close WrestleMania. I mean, we all know that, right?
Oh yeah. But was there honestly was there ever any doubt from the mere second that they said, let's do it, you and me, next year WrestleMania, that was going to be the main event?
Oh, well, yeah, no, quite. I mean, they put a year long into building up. The only other thing that might close is I could potentially see Triple H pulling a power play and get Taker Triple H to close. Because Triple H thinks he's Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, which I'll be honest, I don't dislike the angles that they're doing with Taker and Triple H. I'm just,
yeah, saying. I know. Maybe it's just even. I'm just thinking, okay. To me, it's just the same old stuff that comes out of Triple H's mouth. It's like, my big concern is the future. And Sean, you know that nobody in that locker room can do what you, me, and The Undertaker can do. So I can't finish him off. Because if I do, the show's going to suck. I'm like, so what you're basically saying is you can't wrestle The Undertaker again because you have no faith in anybody that wasn't working for you in the Attitude Era.
Only Triple H can bury an entire roster.
Yeah, which he does regularly. Oh boy. I mean, it's like I just don't care. And I'll be honest, I can't even watch those segments without just thinking like, again, we're gonna go through this match and it's gonna go 50 goddamn minutes longer than it should, and these guys are gonna, they're gonna do all the same old spots. They're gonna try to act like, and we're gonna have the oh my god, how can they keep going? How can they keep going? How can they do this? Gotta agree. 1, 2, no. Tombstone, 1, 2, no. What's gonna end it? Like, I just have absolutely no interest in this match.
Well, it's kind of lazy creatively on their part because it's like, you're only going to have Undertaker for so many more Manias. And it's like, can you do something a little different besides having him go up against Triple H again? But, at the same time, do you want him working with a young guy?
Well,
we all know Undertaker will bury young guys.
I mean, it's like, here's the thing. In an ideal world, I want him working with a young guy because I would have the young guy go over and get the big build as he's the guy that ended the Undertaker streak. And I'll use MMA as an example. Mauricio Verdum will be forever known as the guy that broke Fedor Emelianenko's 10-year undefeated streak in mixed martial arts. No matter what he does going forward, that will be one of the first bullet points on his bio. It's like, but you know what? We all know the Undertaker's ego will not allow him to let somebody end the streak. And if he is going to let somebody do it, it is going to be someone like Triple H or someone like Shawn Michaels or someone like Kane who made their bones.
Yeah, well, at least they're not doing Undertaker and Kane again. Yes.
Well, hold on, Timmy. That might be our match next year.
That'd be funny.
Yeah, which if you really want to laugh at, bad haircuts, find that photo of Kane with his hair grown back out because he looks like a late 80s, early 90s hockey player.
Awesome.
Like, he's got Kane has started growing his hair back out because he no longer is shaving it for the gimmick. Well, it isn't growing back very well. It's like, if you've ever seen the really early episodes of Beverly Hills 90210, Jason Priestley's hair, that's what it looks like. Only it's on a guy that's nearly 50 and has kind of a slug face.
Beverly Hills 90210, that's a blast from the past.
Also a flash from the present, because apparently the CW is determined to remake every teen drama from the 90s with a new twist.
Okay.
Coming soon, Dawson Junior Creek.
Are you serious?
No, I think that's where they're going. They already redid 90210. They redid Melrose Place. I assume they're going to go back to that one eventually.
Wow, wow. Melrose Place, God, I forgot that show existed.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is basically what's going on in the world of wrestling and the world of entertainment in general. We are completely creatively bankrupt.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Not just wrestling.
We always criticize wrestling for living in the past. You know what? Every form of entertainment is living in the past.
Yeah.
Oh, God. VH1 for a while there, VH1 was nothing but I love the 90s, I love the 80s, I love the 70s. I love the 80s part 2, I love the 90s part 2. It's like, seriously.
They were all great, too.
Yeah, they were great. But it's also like, you guys have nothing else to air on your network, like say, a music video?
Oh, man.
And the most redundant thing in the world, the MTV Video Music Awards. MTV airs music videos? When?
That's a good question. Because I hate MTV so much, I actually haven't watched MTV since I was 13 years old. So,
yeah, this might insult people, and if it does, I don't give a rat's ass. really MTV is one of those things that you outgrow pretty quickly, unless you're a girl, and then you wind up watching Jersey Shore.
Oh, Jersey Shore is just crap. But MTV had one show that had any kind of merit, and that was Daria. Everything else is just crap. And yes, that includes Beavis and Butthead. I don't care. I never thought that show was funny. Hallelujah. We might actually agree on something. Yeah, I tried to watch the movie a couple months ago, and they never shut up, and it's just annoying. I'm sorry. I never thought it was funny. So you're not a big fan? You're not a fan that they brought it back? I haven't watched it since they brought it back. I have no desire to watch it because I never thought the show was funny. I thought the music video commentaries were funny, and I thought, in watching the movie, I thought scenes without them were funny. Like, the best parts of the movie are the ones where Beavis and Butthead are not on screen.
That might be true, but can I voice it's a very time-sensitive thing. If you weren't 12 years old and just discovering boobs, you wouldn't probably enjoy the show. And if I'm not mistaken, Patrick was like 7 when it came out. And
the kids in my class loved it. I remember the Great Cornholio. Yeah, Great Cornholio took my grade school by storm. Great Cornholio, and he diggy for my bunghole. I didn't get it. Right, and I watched that cartoon well into my adult years, and I was like, I didn't get it then, I don't get it now.
I will say this, and this is legitimate.
Oh, God.
Beavis and Butthead back then, but the show that nobody remembers for whatever reason as being Mike Judge, King of the Hill, I still watch every night and still laugh every night and will never think that was stupid. When I watch Beavis and Butthead now, not the new ones, but when I watch the old ones, I'm thinking, what the fuck was I thinking?
Oh, James, I do know, though, you have one issue with King of the Hill, and that's the time that's an episode that insulted soccer unfairly. I mean, you've ranted to me about how much you hate that episode.
I think that episode was one of the best ones they ever did, but no, I've been watching them.
Come on, anybody can kick under the goal.
That's just a good show. Whether or not I agree, and by the way, Nick's busted my chops because I went off on a slightly irrational tangent on TNA for creating some stupid reality show called Soccer Moms.
Well, first off, you know what? I don't think that's going to be a TNA thing. I think what happened is people are confusing something maybe Eric Bischoff is doing with his production company.
I mean, I've seen TNA doing it. They got a lot of mommies there, like Dixie and Karen Angle. I mean, maybe they'll do a reality show with that about, mommies of wrestling, but they didn't want to call it Wrestler Wives or some stupid shit like that.
Because that show Basketball Wives is now getting slammed by the people that actually participated in it.
Well, for God's sakes, I mean, I'm sorry, but who could watch that crap? And for the last time, I don't care where you're from, and I have no interest in watching a reality show based on the Real Housewives of wherever that place might be.
I got news for people. If you think those are Real Housewives, you're in for a real disappointment.
Well, I mean, the Real Housewives of New Jersey, I know people like that, unfortunately. I don't know anybody who acts like the jackasses on Jersey Shore. The only people I know who act like that are from Staten Island, which actually half the cast is from. So.
Oh, wait. So you've never seen Robbie E. or Zack Ryder's gimmick?
Well,
I'm making a joke.
Long Island, isn't he?
Yeah. But let's be honest. I mean, it's like, I'm just making a joke for people that don't know it, that can't tell. I mean, it's like when Robbie E. was introduced, the gimmick was called Shore, for God's sake.
There's a Vince Russo idea for you, folks.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be curious to see, what TNA does leading forward. And if I wasn't here when you guys were discussing it, but I liked the pay-per-view. I thought Impact, too talking heavy, but it was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
I don't disagree that it was talking heavy. I think what happened was you had a really long match at the beginning, and then you had a long match at the end So I think they kind of stationed the talking towards the middle. To me, it was actually a pretty decent balance. It's just...
Nick, I have one other question for you.
And God.
It's going to be offensive, but I have to ask, what the hell are the pigeons? I don't fully understand what Taz is talking about.
You know what, to be perfectly honest, James, I just think it's something Taz says, and he may be the only one that really... I think it must be some kind of inside joke with him.
Well, it's related to magic tricks. And I guess he thinks... No, it's related to magic tricks, because, let the pigeons loose.
So he thinks ass is magic.
Yeah.
So apparently the two most magical asses that can do tricks in wrestling are Vince McMahon's and Velvet Sky's.
Oh, God. Why did you have to put that image in my fucking head, James? I'd actually come this close to bear...
Which Kiss My Ass Club would you rather join?
What? Velvet? What the fuck is wrong with you, you stupid son of a bitch?
That reminds me of a great line that Paul Heyman had when he was commentator for the WWE. Like, besides Rikishi, Trish Stratus is the best ass in the WWF.
I think my all-time favorite line is, and it's a horrible segment, but it does make me laugh. It's when they're doing that whole thing with Vince and Trish, and they're having the affair, and he makes her bark like a dog. And Trish, they're making her humiliate herself, and and Vince is making her undress, and Heyman yells out, "Hey, Ma, I came to Washington. I'm going to get to see Bush." And Heyman just says, you could hear the wind just go every one that was on. Vince wasn't on headset because he was in the ring for this segment, but you could hear everyone backstage going, "Oh, what did he just say?"
That's great. That's great. Yeah, that was one of the most uncomfortable, weird segments that they ever did. It was kind of hot because it's Trish Stratus roaming around in her bra and thong, but it's also kind of weird to watch her roll around the ring barking like a dog.
It was the beginning of the Attitude Era reaching its limit.
Yeah. Well,
probably, yeah.
It was almost kind of like a certain episodes of Law and Order SVU where they start talking about the weird fetish, and you're kind of like, okay, that kind of turns me on. They're talking about it. What is wrong with me?
I was a teenager when they did that segment, so I had a little boner because it's. It's like Stratus.
Well, it's one of those things. It was hot, but then eventually you were kind of okay, this is going just a little too far here. It's oh God.
This wasn't Katie Vick here, where it just that's where boners go to die.
Yeah.
Pun fully intended.
Yeah. So, I guess we really should just wrap this up because we got nothing else to talk about. We're bashing on the Attitude Era again, and we're bringing up Katie. I think we should have a new rule that if we ever mention the name Katie Vick, we just gotta stop the conversation and go somewhere else.
I'm sure Triple H has the same rule.
Well, I think if you bring up Katie Vick, what happens is he fires your ass in the WWE. Well, I guess he can't fire. Unless he can't fire people without the board of directors' approval, despite the fact he's supposed to be the CFO.
Oh God, I do not care. And now, Johnny Ace is back in charge. Yay! I don't care.
Apparently he's going to try to take over SmackDown.
He doesn't own SmackDown? I don't even care who's running the fucking shows.
You don't care who's running their fucking shows? I really don't care what their end result is on their fucking shows. Especially when I know what it's all going to wind up. Cena's going to go over. It's going to get Undertaker versus Triple H again. And, oh, God. And I'll say this. I assume Jericho will win on Sunday, and then it'll be he and Punk at WrestleMania.
Yeah, either he or Punk is walking out of the pay-per-view with the belt. Daniel Bryan's most likely going to retain. And we should also clarify that Santino's getting an Elimination Chamber match because Randy Orton suffered a real concussion. So I understand that. It's you lose Orton, but there's got to be somebody better than Santino you can put that spot. Come on.
Absolutely. it's like, I even hate to say it, but even Mark Henry would make more sense. I know he's injured.
Yeah, he got taken out so Khali could get in there, which that's another one. It's like, what the hell?
Well, I mean, even though, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's like, okay, Sheamus, have Sheamus try to go for it. If he gets a chance to say, well, I will need my shot from the Raw. I'm going to make sure I main event WrestleMania.
Yeah, well, no, he's not going to main event WrestleMania. His match will probably be the second or third match on the card. Maybe the opener, yeah. If it's him versus Daniel Bryan, there's no way in hell that's not going to be the opener. I'm like, right, just, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like last year with Edge and Del Rio, where it was just like, nobody was buying Del Rio as a main eventer yet, even though they keep trying to make him a main eventer,
and they keep trying.
And they'll keep trying as soon as he comes back.
Yep. Yeah, but I'm also thinking it's like, well, the SmackDown match might be like Bryan versus Sheamus versus Orton in a three-way or something like that, to which I say is like, well, that makes it make even less sense for Sheamus to win the Royal Rumble because, he might be getting in a three-way with Orton, which wouldn't make any sense.
It's also like this, it's once again another year where the winner of the Royal Rumble really has no build beforehand and it gets no build coming out of it, It's like, it's like last year, the year they did it with Edge, where it's like, there was such a natural story there with Edge got hurt and then Jericho turned his back on him and insulted him for months. It's like, now Edge became a guy who could only say the word spear. Last year, they're like, Del Rio came down to a guy that could only say the word destiny. What's Sheamus' one word going to be? Brogue?
If Sheamus gets on TV,
yeah.
Fuck.
It's like, I like Sheamus, I like Sheamus, and I've always said that my issue was he just wasn't ready when they started putting the belt on him. I just felt like he's just not close to being ready yet, and it's like, I kind of feel like he is ready, but they're not putting him on TV. It's like, seriously, this is the guy you have win the Royal Rumble, one of your biggest events every year. It's like they said, okay, we're going to put the belt up. We're going to give it to Sheamus because everyone thinks Jericho's going to win. That's the classic example of when it's good to be predictable.
And they pulled a Russo there because Russo was bashed for doing stuff like that.
Yep.
So, hey. Which, by the way, getting back to Russo, do you think that Cornette, jerked off when he read that news? Russo got fired?
Well, he posted on YouTube, or not YouTube, he posted on Twitter, have I died? Implying that he's gone to heaven. You know what I think karma would be? And I still have my fingers crossed, even though I don't think it's going to happen. How fucking awesome would it be if Sinclair Broadcasting hired Vince Russo as a consultant?
That would be funny. It won't happen.
I would love it if, I swear to God, and I will do anything, ladies and gentlemen, if Sinclair hires Russo and they don't tell Cornette, and I can be backstage when they introduce, Jim, we want you to meet the new consultant that's going to be helping us out the show. And Cornette just walks in and there's Russo sitting in a chair. Hi, Jim. It's just the words that will come out of Cornball's mouth. Oh, God, it would be hilarious.
Oh, yeah. It'd be funny. Just for Cornette's reaction, because Cornette, say what you will about him, but I love watching him rant about shit.
Oh, God. Like the infamous Dairy Queen video.
It doesn't take much to set him off.
Nothing. It doesn't take anything to set him off. It'll probably be something like, man, it's cold outside. Well, goddamn, you thought it was going to be warm outside. Why the hell would you even come here? What, you never heard of a goddamn motherfucking jacket, you stupid son of a bitch? Wear a jacket. They're not that expensive, you stupid bastard. You can just go down to the Kmart and buy jackets. Hell, I can't get any reception. I don't think I can get any reception on my cell phone. Well, you son of a bitch, they have these things called landlines. You see, long before everyone could have a phone in their goddamn pocket, everyone would just pick up the damn phone and dial it. Because they run through the fucking ground, you idiot, you dumb motherfucker. I don't know what the hell's wrong with you. I think that match ran a little bit long. Well, how do you pick any goddamn stopwatch? Actually, it won't have some of that time to get on Raw. What the hell is with you? Don't you know what the hell is on the goddamn wrestling show?
What is Jim? I take it this is Jim Cornette?
Well, of course, I'm going to stop your little mealy mouth and whining and all this. You know, first and foremost, Eddie Edwards is an incredible worker, and that's why I am putting him in every main event until eternity. And that's why I revive Roderick Strong, because he is a worker. Which, by the way, that is like the next big main event for ROH, a three-way between Davey, Eddie, and Roderick, which I'm like, so you're basically taking two very stale feuds and combining them into one.
I can't believe, like, Roderick is still, like,
in the title
picture for them. Yeah.
He's not really. It's like out of nowhere they all of a sudden said he's back in the title picture. It's sort of like Sheamus winning the Royal Rumble. It's like, well, that came out of nowhere.
Well, I kind of saw it coming. They started merchandising Sheamus a little bit. A little bit more. Whoa, pardon me. They started merchandising him a little bit more towards the end of the year and the beginning of the year. Even though he wasn't doing anything, I guess they needed to give him something.
Well, he's going to be main eventing WrestleMania, James. So
there you go.
Which, first off, we have kind of blown our goal of only doing about a 30-minute show well out of bounds.
He's not. Let's rephrase that. He's not going to main event WrestleMania. Rock and Cena.
He's going to open it, but they'll call it a main event because it's a world title match.
Oh, you know what? World title. You know, it actually would not surprise me since this happened to them last year. They wind up bouncing Sheamus and Daniel Bryan off the card again because they did it last year to get Ian Cole more time.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. The match that wasn't good enough for WrestleMania last year gets to be a world title match this year.
Oh, God. It's disappointing because you could tell both Sheamus and Bryan had bought brand new gear, you know, to have like their little WrestleMania moment. It's like, sorry guys, we have to give more time to Undertaker and Triple H and King and Cole.
Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole.
It's like, we got to give 50 minutes to those guys, which, thank God they did not try to redo that feud this year.
I kept thinking that Michael Cole was going to get a WrestleMania match with somebody this year, and I think they, if that was in the works, they scrapped it, which is good.
Who knows? We still got some time before WrestleMania. It would not shock me if he winds up getting another one.
Oh, Jesus.
They might bring back Jim Ross one more time. It has to be Ross and Cole at WrestleMania.
Yeah, have another rap battle.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, God. I've never felt so bad for JR in my life, but that was bad.
Eh? Oh. Yeah, that was bad. Just like everything else Michael Cole has ever done.
Well, he won if you go to the WrestleCrap website, he won the Gooker Award for Wrestling Angle 2011.
Which doesn't shock me.
No, and by the way, he beat out Sting and Hardy at Victory Road. Okay, so that says a lot. That's how bad you are if that doesn't win.
Well, you know, I was going to say that about Sting and Hardy. It's like, yes, it was a horrible moment, but it wasn't an angle. It's kind of like, oh, fuck, one guy screwed the whole thing up.
Yeah, but it still happened, though. So
I know, but it's like, I'm just saying, it's like it wasn't an angle. It wasn't like something like somebody said, hey, Jeff, show up really fucked up, okay? Sure thing. No, it's like, he screwed up. I mean, it's like, oh, God, yeah. And I think
Michael Cole, no, it was the never-ending story.
Yeah. And he still, brings it up. You know, it's like, by the way, I beat you at WrestleMania last year, King.
Okay.
Oh, shut up, Cole.
Yeah, like the worst match ever. Yeah, okay. That nobody wants to remember.
Yeah, but I'm sure that all those people that said, oh, Jerry Lawler deserves it, he's earned his moment at WrestleMania, I hope you're happy he got it, and it was the worst goddamn match ever.
It's up there. I mean, it's up there with one of Mania's worst. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've gone way over on this. So is there anything else we need to talk about before we go?
No, not really. We just kind of already stretched out everything we could possibly talk about.
Okie dokie. Well, we'll be back in, 2 weeks? What are we going to do on next week?
I think James has been saying he's got a interview lined up on the 21st with, God, what's her name? I really do apologize to this woman. She's a young wrestler from Ohio Valley Wrestling. I think she's their current women's champion, so.
Oh, cool.
I think her name was like Taylor Hendricks or.
Taylor Hendricks, yes. Actually, you know what? That's the information that James gave me. So, yes, we will be having an interview with Taylor Hendricks, hopefully next week. So stay tuned for that. Hope you all enjoyed the Shane Douglas interview, and I hope you all enjoyed listening to us just ramble on nonsensically for an hour.
Yeah.
Fun time.
And remember, boys and girls, the reason we haven't seen an ambulance match in 10 years is because they're really, really boring.
Well, I mean, it's also like, we've had stretcher matches and last ride matches, so it's really not that much of a difference.
And there's like a whole group of matches that I think we need to do a segment on this show starting on the website called matches that just need to be retired because they're not that fun. I would put the stretcher match there. I would put the buried alive match there. I would put the platform match or what is it? The scaffold match up there. They sound really good on paper, but the problem is like the actual execution is pretty boring. It's like we're gonna wait for a guy to get stuffed in a box, thrown in an ambulance, pushed across the line. We all kind of know something funky is gonna happen here.
How about the Punjabi prison match? Do you want to see that?
No, I never want to see that again. It's like, you've got to escape a cage to escape another cage.
Made of bamboo.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, what's going to happen is we're going to have these doors open, and then they're going to shut, and then we'll put a lock on them. It's like, okay, so we kind of assume that at some point they're both going to get out through the last door. And then you got to fight up through another big door, a bigger cage made of bamboo.
It looked like the Kennel from Hell almost.
Which, thank God, that never got revived.
Well, you know what? That concept, the steel cage over the Hell in a Cell might actually make for a cool match. It's just, when you throw dogs in there, it just didn't work.
Well, I mean, it's sort of like a buried alive match. I mean, I'll say this, it's like, it sounds like a good idea. It's like, we're going to bury someone alive. It's going to be so intense. The problem is, it's like, okay, so you got to throw them in the grave, and then you got to throw a bunch of dirt on them. This is going to take 20 minutes. And the problem is, like, it sounds cool. We're going to have dogs surrounding the ring, and they're going to attack someone as they try to get out. It's like, the problem is you can't really have, like, attack dogs do that because that is very dangerous.
Yeah.
So you have to have tame dogs, and really tame dogs aren't going to chase people, and they're going to, dogs are dogs, so they're going to shit and piss and hump and be dogs. I'm not trying to insult dogs, but that's what they fucking do. I love that.
That's what they did in that match.
I love dogs. I'm a dog person. I have a pet. I've had dogs, but it's like, look, what they essentially do is they lie around, they shit, they piss, they eat, they hump.
And we love them for it.
Yes. They're dogs. They're not that different from us, but it's like, oh, this sounds like a really good idea. Well, these dogs aren't actually doing anything. It was just such a tasteless angle leading up to it. It's like, I made you eat your dog.
We're still rambling on and on, so we might as well just cut this short now. So once again, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you to James for setting everything up and getting the interview with Shane Douglas. And thank you, Nick, for staying on the line with me for so long.
Yep. See you later, Patrick.
All right, later, everybody. We'll see you all next week.